Hello, my name is Yes That Old Guy. My friend and I, Mentat OG, make games on Fortnite Creative using UEFN under the name FNOMG. We have a few published games that you can check out below or in Fortnite at FNOMG, but the one I'm talking about today is our award-winning game called Ultimate Car Battle. In that game, there are some floating billboards that advertise some of our other games, and I was asked how I made them. So I decided to make this video to basically show step by step how I did it. Before we start, I'm going to make a couple of assumptions. First, that you know your way around the UEFN development environment fairly well. And second, that you will understand that I am not a UEFN expert, so I might identify things by the wrong names or do things against common conventions, etc. Please bear with me and be kind in the comments. What I'm going to show you is the way that worked for me, and if you follow along, this should work for you too. I have started a new project using the blank island template, and I've named the project. I have created some folders in the content browser named Images, Materials, and Cinematics, and I have also created a folder in the outliner called Billboards and a subfolder called BB_1 and made that folder the current folder. Now we're going to grab all of the assets we need to build our billboard prop. In the content browser, select all and search for billboards. Don't use the billboard device. This is not really what it sounds like and it won't work for what we are doing. You can probably use any of the billboards that come up, but I like to use the blank one. Drag it into your workspace and drop it anywhere. Clear the search bar and search for hover and grab one of these hover platforms and put it in your workspace as well. Adjust the size, the shape, and the position of these to suit your needs. If you want more of the hover platforms, just hold Alt and drag on the gizmo to create a second one. Go up here and click this icon, select Shape, then Cube, and drop it on the workspace, and do the same for a plane. Position the cube behind the billboard, and rotate and resize the plane to fit the front of the billboard. I have my grid snap thing set to 4 so I can move things around in small increments. That way, I can move the plane to be right in front of the billboard. This doesn't need to be all that precise because in gameplay, you probably really won't notice it. Now that you have all your parts, you should rename them. Use whatever convention you like, but here's how I did it. These two look a little bit weird, but I did it this way for later if I want to copy-paste things. So UEFN will renumber them correctly for me. Now, select all of these assets, and in the Details pane, search for Damage, and uncheck Can Be Damaged if you don't want these to be damaged. If you want to make more than one of these billboards, now is the time to do some copy and pasting. Make a new subdirectory and name it BB_2. Select all of these assets and do a copy-paste. UEFN should rename them properly with the number 2 at the end. Select all of these new assets and right-click, select Move, and move them to your new folder. We did this now because of some weirdness in UEFN. Doing it after the next step can cause some problems. Go ahead and hide this folder for now. Select all the assets except for the cube and drag them all onto the cube. This creates a parent item with children. Now if you want to move the entire prop, you just need to select the cube and everything else will move with it. This is very important for later. Now we need to add some devices. Go up to this icon again, click Cinematic, then select the camera rig rail and drop that onto your workspace. In the content browser, select all and search for Cinematic Sequence Device and drop that onto your workspace as well. Rename both of these in the outliner. I'm using the camera rig rail for the spline. I don't know if any other splines will work, but they might. If you can't see the camera rig rail, go ahead and hit G on your keyboard. This toggles the Show Hide Game mode and allows you to see things that you can't see in the game. With the camera rig rail selected, in the Details pane, select the spline, and then you can adjust the spline to your needs. If you select a node, you can move it around. I suggest that at first you don't move any of them up or down, just level with the floor. To make a new node, press Alt and click and drag. Once you have all the nodes you want, go over to the Details pane and search for Close, and then check Close Loop. Now you can adjust the shape of the spline to meet your needs. Don't forget to save your work. Go to the content browser and left-click and select the level sequence. Rename this and then double-click to open it. This is where the motion of the billboard will be created. There is a lot to this device, but for this purpose, we just need to drag and drop the parts we need. Grab the camera rig rail and drop it onto this pane. And then drag the cube here as well. If it shows up above the rail, move the rail above it. Click the plus next to the cube and select Path and then select the rig rail. This attaches the cube to the rail. If you click play, you should see the billboard move along the rail. It's screaming along right now, and we will fix that later, but for now, note the orientation of the billboard. If it is facing the correct way, you can move on to the next part, but the way it's facing has to do with the way the rig rail was created. To fix this, click Save on the cinematic and close the window. In the outliner, select each part of the billboard except for the cube and adjust them to face the correct way. It should be a 90-degree turn one way or the other depending on if you want the billboard to face inward or outward. While you still have these selected, you might need to scoot them around a bit to get the cube hidden again. Open the cinematic again and hit play to see if things look correct. When the cinematic was created, it was only 5 seconds long, but it might be displayed as frames instead of seconds. If you want UEFN to display seconds instead, you can change that by clicking the arrow here, selecting Show Time As, and then selecting Seconds. Now you can adjust the length of the cinematic by double-clicking on the timestamp here and increasing it to the amount of time that you want. Grab the end of the cube timing and pull it to the end of the track, and move this red line over as well. Click play and see how it looks. You'll notice that the billboard will start out slowly and then speed up, and then also slows down when it reaches the last node in the rig rail. To change that, hover over the keyframe and change them to linear. Now click play and take a look. To get the game to play the cinematic, you need to activate the cinematic sequence device. Select it in the outliner and drag the cinematic onto the sequence in the Details panel. Go ahead and check Loop Playback and Autoplay. Okay, now save your work and check in all your changes. Now you can launch a session. And it seems to work. Here's something I forgot to mention earlier. When you attach a prop, like the billboard we made, to a cinematic, UEFN no longer cares where the prop lives once the cinematic has started. It will just transport the prop to the first node on the spline. Since we have a second billboard that we copied earlier, I'm going to grab all of the assets for that, highlight them, and move that entire billboard below the map. And then I'm going to select the cube from our working billboard, and I'm going to hide that under the map also. Now, one other thing. Because the prop is following the spline, the rig rail is what we move around to position the billboard on the map. Select the rig rail in the outliner and grab the gizmo and move it to where you want. Go ahead and open the cinematic, click play to see your adjustments. You can even still adjust the nodes on the spline, like we did earlier, to dial things in the way you want. I'm not going to go into all of the craziness in creating materials. That would be a 50-part video series that I really don't have the time to make and frankly the skills. So I'm just going to go over the parts that you need to know to put an image on your billboard. In the content browser, import the image you want to use. It needs to have a size ratio that is a power of 2 to work in UEFN. So 1024 by 512 is a good example. And for the best results, use the smallest size image you can get away with. In the content browser, right-click and select Create Material. You should rename this something like MM_BB_MAT_1. The MM stands for Master Material, and that's the important part. Now right-click on this and create an instance of the material. This isn't strictly necessary, but if you're going to use this material in other places, it's a good practice to use instances instead of master materials. It just improves the game performance. Now select the billboard plane in the outliner and drag the material instance onto the material element. Go ahead and save your work and launch a session. As you can see, the image is on the billboard and the billboard is moving as expected. At the beginning of a new session, it sometimes takes the image a few minutes to resolve correctly. This is normal behavior. The higher resolution the image, the better it will look, but lower resolution is better for gameplay. You need to use your best judgment here. Go ahead and move all of these assets into the correct folders to keep things organized. Okay, that should do it. You should have a working floating billboard. Or 2 or 3. Anyway, if you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to ask in the comments. Remember to be kind. I will just delete anything I find rude. And if you are watching this video, I think I can assume that you are a Fortnite creative game developer of some sort. So you might want to check out our Discord server at FNOMG, where we have a channel set up for developers, and we hope to get a bit of a community together to help each other out.